Welcome, everyone. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late here joining. How's everyone doing today? Hey, Charles. Good to see you. Cool. We'll dive into it. We'll let people trickle in as they start joining here. But today we have a really exciting session. The topic we're going to cover today and what you're going to learn is about how to see how you show up on different LLMs. We're actually going to build an agent that checks this on a weekly basis and actually tells you how you're showing up in these different sessions or on these different LLMs, and then what to do to actually show up and rank higher on them. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is, when we put our heads in the mindset of our buyers, what they do is they'll come to, a chat GPT or perplexity chat, and they'll do something like, what is the best CRM for modern B2B companies, businesses? And they'll search there and maybe, they'll do it on ChatGPT or maybe ChatGPT is their LLM of choice. And when you do this, you can see the results kind of create this sales shortlist for you. So if I ran this through Perplexity, I'm looking through and I see HubSpot, Salesforce, Pipedrive, Zoho, and Microsoft Dynamics. But if I'm Attio, which is a CRM that's very very well respected in the B2B software space, as a someone evaluating different CRMs, Attio is not even on the list. I don't even know it exists from here. And maybe I searched on ChatGPT where Attio shows up number one, but Zoho doesn't. And what I want to depict here is the fact that each LLM really has its own set of suggestions and memory for how it presents different results. And so a brand that leads on one board might be completely gone from another. And your buyers are reading these rankings to build that sales shortlist. And so instead of the old way was thinking about how Google, you could show up in your top keyword results. You know how you now have multiple result pages that you're trying to optimize for. Um, you can think about it, let alone all five of them. And so today, what we want to build is the thing that ranks on every single one of them for your category completely on autopilot. And if I recommend any of you who hasn't done this yet, go into an LLM, your LLM of choice, and try searching what your buyers would search. That looks like something like the best X, right? In this case, CRM for insert more specific. Or you can say, who are the top category providers? Give me a short list. And try this now and see where you rank. Are you showing up? Are you not? And even if you do this here on ChatGPT, in a couple of weeks, the results could be completely different. And so what we need to be doing is making sure that this is happening continuously, week over week on multiple different LLMs to help you see how you show up across the board. So before I dive into the actual build of this, just a quick overview of who I am. My name is Will. I run Catalyst. We are a go-to-market agency. And what we do is we help companies build their AI visibility system for clients. We've worked with 150 different B2B softwares, ranging from Series A to Series D. And what we do is we've taken all of the lessons from working with all of those clients and then come here and give these, the learnings away for free each week so you guys can build this on your own. And what we really want to do is make it so that you can build all of these systems on your own and really educate you on the platform and the thought process of how we build these different systems for different clients. Anyway, let's go back to this live build. Let me pull up and switch over to Claude Code for you. Great. And so what we're going to do is we're going to jump into Claude and we're going to go to Cowork and we're going to come in and connect our starter project. Again, these starter projects are shared with everyone after each session. So you can follow along and build this on your own. but we will talk through, what this process entails here live together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to search what is the best CRM for B2B SaaS company, modern SaaS companies. And what it's going to do is going to work through the project files to understand what we need to actually be doing to build this process. It's a little bit confused because it knows context of who we are at Catalyst. We are running a live educational session and using Attio as a demonstration. Always love it when your AI gets too smart and is actively questioning what you're trying to do. It's good. It helps me keep focused on working on the real things. This should be good. Okay, cool. Well, this goes. So let me tell you a story. So a founder I was speaking to the other week for a modern payments processing tool. What they did is they went in and they, went into ChatGPT. We've found stablecoin infrastructure, modern fintech is having a lot of opportunity for growth on AI search right now. And so he typed in, seeing how his company ranked, and his company came back at number 3. And he felt great about it. He was really excited. But then when I had him pull up Perplexity and, search for it as well, different 5 companies came up. His name wasn't even on the list. It was completely gone. And he had been treating AI search like a singular scoreboard, right? He had been just looking at ChatGPT, weighing in the fact that there's also memory on LLMs. And so to really get the most honest response, you need to spin up a new instance. But he thought he was winning when really he was really not showing up at all for the other ones. He hadn't even looked, but the signal was there, and anyone can open all of these LLMs and check for themselves. But we weren't actually searching for, the right things. And so this tool needs to actually go into the different LLMs and understand, how you're showing up on each of them. We know that 4 out of 10 B2B buyers now start inside of an AI tool. So it's almost half of every time someone makes a purchasing decision starts with an AI search. And each LLM is showing a very different short list ranked of competitors to look at. And so the job is to read every LLM and then rank them and see where we stand before a deal, slips through our cracks. And that's the job this agent will do, and it is very good at, because it's really good at pulling data on a consistent basis. So you can see what we came in here, and it is first building the list of prompts that it will search. So, for example, it's going to look up things like best CRM for B2B SaaS companies, CRM with easiest implementation, alternatives to Salesforce for fast growing startups, right? The real queries that your buyer is searching. And it's often hard to know what these are. I try to tell everyone we work with to put your head in the mindset of the buyer as much as possible. And so we can put together what these prompts are. And you can see it's asking some additional questions to be able to build out the prompts in the queries. So the target company to track is Attio, rival CRMs. Yep. The 5 bar questions. What are the actual questions without these? So let's answer them. Yes. Yes. Use your knowledge to write the queries. I'm going to upgrade this to Sonnet so it can do a little bit more critical strategic. Also, for those of you who don't know, we talk a lot about AEO here on our workshops. Some people refer to as GEO, Answer Engine Optimization is what AEO stands for. And we'll look at metrics, things like share of voice. But all of this really means the same thing. And all we're tracking is where you land when a buyer asks an AI, who leads your category, right? Answer engine optimization is just saying, when someone is asking a question about your company, how are you showing up in those top answers? And that's really the game that we're playing here. And so I just want to make sure that we're all clear on these definitions before we go too deep. But the prompts that we're getting back with, these are the 5 question buyers type in AI before creating a short list for CRMs. Cool. Saying the next step. Let's run it. Curious, for anyone who is following along now, have you guys actually gone and run these searches before on different LLMs? Have you guys tried to evaluate where you sit on different LLMs? Would love to see your answers below. So what we're doing is it's going to spin up a browser automation, and it's going to search on all of these different platforms, these different queries that we identified. And so it's going to pull the rankings and the response of everything and put it into a document for us to evaluate. It's going to ask for a series of permissions, and you can see it's actually taking control of my browser and starting to run this and pulling back the insights. I don't think a lot of people have started using this feature enough where we can actually have the AI agent go and take control of our web browser and actually navigate on our behalf. What this does is it allows you to access things that you might not have been able to access before that doesn't have direct API access or Claude MCPs. It's just another way to enter information. Or if you're still manually screenshotting and dropping in information. Also, while this loads, we've built, this is a great way to build this in Claude and to build into your own system, especially if you have other things created in Claude already. We always recommend taking these skills that we produce each week and package and build them together so they can all talk to each other. That's how we really get to true agentic work. This is just one piece of the puzzle. Just knowing how different LLMs are ranking you is just one component of this. And to really get a full comprehensive view of understanding how you rank on AEO and how you show up on different platforms is going to, vary week over week. And that only really covers one component of things. We now need to fix that with on site content, off site mentions, and technical. And the way to get the most comprehensive view is using our own AEO audit tool, which I'm linking to here on the screen. And what happens is you go there and you just put in your website and it gives you all of this information. You can also run it multiple times so it continues to, check and populate. This same kind of skill is built into that audit tool already. And so if you're less technical and you're not actually building these AI agents yourself, you can just enter in your website and it gives you all of this information free. And you can even download the markdown file to drop into a skill. So you're using all of that data already. Okay, we'll let this continue to run. You can see on these first runs, it takes a little bit of time. And so what I like about Claude Cowork is it actually gives you a overview of what it's running and what it's doing, and what the progress is. And so you can see it ran the first 1 through 5 questions on ChatGPT, ran it on Perplexity, saved the answers, ran it on Gemini, ran it on Claude, and now it's building a blended leaderboard. And this is exactly what we're going to be using to understand how we're actually showing up on different platforms. And these are the queries that it's going to be searching. I'm curious, for those who are joining us live, would love to understand kind of what companies you're working at or what your business is. Have you been, spending time trying to rank on AEO? What's working? What's not? Anything in below, please drop so I can help navigate and steer this session to be, as truly helpful as possible for you. Looks like we have one person talking about higher kids' health education and struggling to improve ranking. Sunny, if you want to share your URL, we can take a look at this together. Only 5 or 6 something will show in later bits. What about small? This is a great question, Vic. And Sunny, I will answer yours as well after. So the question is, I feel discouraged around AEO, reason being only top 5 to 6 companies will show in leaderboards. What about small players? And why I love this question is because there's actually so much potential and so much opportunity for smaller players with AEO versus SEO. SEO, again, the objective of SEO is when someone searches a keyword, showing up on that first page of Google results. And because the keyword is so specific, right? There's fewer words in the keyword than a full search or a full question, right? People are more colloquial with LLMs. There's actually more opportunity to rank because people are searching more dynamic things. We also know the factors that go into AEO and AI still have room and opportunity for smaller players to show up on. And so don't be discouraged. And we're seeing a lot of these small people actually surpass some of the larger incumbents by using, offsite and on-site recommendations to be able to rank higher. And I can show you what this looks like. I'm going to go to the audit tool. Actually, Vic, do you want to drop in your URL as well? And I can pull that up. I think there's an important lesson here because if you are able to fix, so AEO needs three things to rank effectively. You need good technical, which means your website has to be scannable and crawlable by LLMs. There's like bots that go and actually read the information on your website. So that needs to be working. Then on your website, we call on-site content. But all that means is that you are posting original content on your website that can't be replicated or mimicked anywhere else. And then offsite content. And then third party people are mentioning you. And what happens is the LLMs kind of form an opinion about you based off of all three of those sources combined. And because offsite mentions are actually weighted pretty high in the way that it evaluates, if you are getting referenced and cited in those sources, LLMs will very much likely recommend you above some of the legacy players. And so a good example of this is one of our clients. They're a global payroll provider, and they were competing against some of these massive, large payroll providers that have been around for the last like 10 years. They're more modern. They use like stable coins, pretty cool business model. But they, when they first ran these scans, they weren't showing up on the short list at all. But after, making some of these improvements and getting referenced in these really niche publications, they were able to surpass some of the large incumbents like Deal or Ripple or, some of those large payroll providers. Rippling, sorry. And I think it comes down to really two things, or at least it did for them, is the offsite mentions are great, but then how can we leverage, right? We talk a lot about building non-commoditized content. And what that just means is can you create content that isn't replicable by every AI, right? Is it not AI slop? How do we get rid of slop? And it really comes down to building having an original perspective or providing new information to the internet because LLMs are trained on internet data. And so if it can just recite a response that it already knows in its memory, it's not going to reference something, right? It's not going to cite its source if it is coming from its own memory. And so now our whole thought process has to be around, well, how do you create content that actually gets a mention? And that comes down to using either proprietary data or using information that or knowledge or perspective that is unique to you and your business. And so for, some of these smaller guys who are worried about, ranking against these competitors, I encourage you to dig into who are your internal subject matter experts. Maybe it's your founder, maybe it's some expert within your company, maybe some of the doctors. This Tiny Docs seems like maybe, leveraging some of the doctors in your network or whatever that might be and have them be the thought leader or that unique perspective offering into the content. It's like we're coming in here. So you can see ChatGPT. These are all the ChatGPT ones. So it's still compiling this. This session, once we build this for the first time, it takes a little bit longer. The idea is you build this into a routine workflow that automatically runs, each time. Okay, we'll let that keep going. So, okay, Vic, safemethods.com. Okay, so it looks like you have some information up and running. Let's pull up your audit together. I'm going to let this run in the background and just pull up one of these audits so we can look at this. It's not. Okay, so in our audit tool, we're doing something quite similar. We're looking, we're coming up with those buyer queries. We're looking at ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, Google AIO, checking your domain authority, scanning content infrastructure, looking at entity signals, building a competitive ranking. And the idea with building this is it really gives you a full kind of comprehensive view as to how you're showing up on AI. And Vic, it seems like I'm excited to see what this leaderboard looks like. But if there's just 5 or 6 people on there, right, all of a sudden, you don't have to be ranking number 1 like you did with Google. You only have to be, you just have, your first goal is showing up and being in the top 5, right? Because that's what LLMs are showing and people are making a short list from. And so Your main goal is just how do I get in those top 5 spots? We'll jump over to Tiny Docs here while that finishes up because this is run. And so this is kind of an interesting one because this is actually a really cool opportunity, Sunny. So you have good technical, right? Again, we evaluate things off of technical, on-site content, and off-site content. What's interesting is you guys are already showing up in the second spot. Congratulations. But that just means they're with no seemingly no on-site content unless our tool wasn't able to find it, or off-site content. Just a little bit. But I'd assume you aren't putting much effort into it. And so you guys are already gaining the citations here and actually ranking 24% of the time across Claude, Google, Perplexity. It looks like it wasn't able to find any data there in Gemini. We have this so you can click in and see, okay, these are the 10 buyer queries that we searched. Best platform with interactive game quizzes for kids' health learning. Didn't show up here, but these ones you did show up. Looks like some comparison pieces and brand specific. That's great. Best animated health education platform for elementary school. You did get reference there. And so with just a little bit of effort onto your on-site content, I think you can make a massive impact here. What you do is you can come in and click on-site content. And you can see the questions that we were searching. So best animated health education, you were answered on it. But to help kind of boost your ability to show up for these searches of what your actual buyers are searching, we put together a full content plan for you. So you can actually see and come in here and say, all right, if you just write and publish these pieces of content on your website and host them in a blog, LLMs will now have something to reference, right? People are searching these things already, but there is no answer. And so all you need to do is provide that answer. AI is quite lazy and it will just copy and paste. It will just find the most credible answer and reference that when people search. And so if we know there's search volume, right, there's already demand, but there just isn't enough supply of an answer. What we need to do in these quick wins are just providing that answer so it knows what to go look for. So, this is a really great place to start. And because you're already ranking, and showing up 24% of the time. Without this, you can make a big impact. Same with offsite content. So these are this is what's being cited. And so these are the targets that you want to go after to see if they will reference you. I'm going to jump over into safe methods as well. You can put in your actual email so it sends you the full audit. Safe methods not really showing up here. Looks like we're having some issues competing with some of these large consultant firms. But the same thing comes down to it. So, first and foremost, we need to fix all technical things, right? This is like foundation work. We need to be setting up our websites to be crawlable and scannable by LLMs. Otherwise, it doesn't even matter how great our content is because LLMs are scraping every page of the website. And if they can't scrape yours, they don't have information about you. It looks like you're passing all the crawlers, but don't have a lot of organizational schema, don't have FAQs, don't have article schema, how-to schema, or data set. Looks like there's no LLM's TXT file. We create one of those for you for free. You can just copy it, download it. But you have to go through all of these before we can even start looking at on-site and off-site content. For on-site content, these are the things that people are searching. So best banking as a service consulting for decoupling legacy systems. It's a great example of what people are searching in the era of LLMs, right? Look how uniquely specific this query is. Someone who is expressing their pain point, they're having issues decoupling legacy systems. This is our highest search volume query for this category. And so there's something to take note of, right? Is like, this is why smaller companies actually have an opportunity at outranking legacy players who have owned keywords, because maybe someone just owns best banking as a service, consultancy or something. But this query is getting a lot of volume within itself. Right? Imagine if I could send you 800, 900 people to your website additional each month. For most small businesses, that's an insane amount of traffic. And so we just need to be ranking for one or two of these big guys to really enter the race. And so my advice here, Sunny, is, prioritize your technical, which is definitely struggling the most. You have some of this on-site content doing a good job. And then it really comes down to your offsite mentions. So you come in here at offsite, you can see what sources AI is referencing to try to get on some of those. You can see the best of lists, right? So these are the lists that this is what AI is pulling from. Reach out to vault.com and try to get referenced on there. And then you can come in here and look at these other authority signals. You can also see by coverage by buyer intent. I think this is interesting, right? Like you're ranking for brands. So when people are actually searching your company, you're showing up, which is good. But you need to be showing up on these comparison pages, these category pages, use case pages, etc. And so this really gives you a full, plan roadmap of what you need to do. We also have a whole roadmap markdown plan here, which you can download and add to your LLM. I'm looking back at our Claude session, and it is still running. It's been running for 26 minutes. I didn't realize how long this would take to build live. But what I'll do is we're still going to send all of the project files at the end of the session, and we will be sending a follow up. But what I encourage all of you to do is take a look at keep an eye out for that email. Also, if you haven't already, run your company through this scan. I'm always down to do a free, 30-minute walkthrough session with you to talk about your company specifically and really try to understand, right? First, we need to understand how we're ranking and how we're showing up. Where are our gaps? Because then we can build a plan to close them. And that's really the core of what this strategy is. Well, thank you guys for joining today's session. Sorry we moved away from the live build slightly. But like I said, Charles will follow up. Keep an eye on your email and we will send all these session files to you after once this run finishes. And you can run it yourself. Just note that it might take, about an hour to run on that first one. But again, the idea is that this runs autonomously. And so every week you understand what your action plan needs to be. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys next week.